Hello, and welcome to Talk This Way. I'm your host, Marcia Martin, and today we're continuing our course on communication mastery by exploring how stepping out of your comfort zone can unlock extraordinary results. This episode is titled Comfort Zones and Being in Flow. We all naturally seek comfort. It's part of being human. But staying in that comfortable space can prevent us from growing into our fullest potential. Today, I'll share insights on how to move into the uncomfortable zone, where real growth happens, without pushing yourself to the point of overwhelming stress. In this episode, we'll also dive into the concept of flow, what it means to align with the universe and allow opportunities to arise naturally. I'll share personal stories, including the emotional journey of losing my beloved dog Gallagher, and how moments of deep connection and transformation have shaped my life and work. If you're ready to expand beyond your comfort zone, embrace growth, and step into the flow of life, let's get started. I've done this for some of you, but I want to make sure all of you have this information. How I'm going to look at things is, here is a comfort zone. And as a human being, I want you to know that we fight to be comfortable. If you start listening to people's language, you'll say, well, that's not comfortable. Oh, well, that won't make me comfortable. Oh, well, that will make you uncomfortable. Oh, well, don't make them uncomfortable. Oh, you made them uncomfortable. Think about it. We fight towards being comfortable. The problem with that is it's stagnant, there's no growth. You're not going to grow in a comfort zone. It's not a bad place to be, it's fine, it's great. You're just not going to grow. You're not going to expand. Expanding and growth are uncomfortable. It's a stretch. So there is a zone outside of your comfort zone where it's uncomfortable. And what our purpose is to keep you in this zone. Now, there's a zone outside the uncomfortable zone, and that's called insanity. You don't want to be insanely uncomfortable. There's no point in stretching yourself to a point where you're so uncomfortable that you're stressed, anxious, fearful, on the edge. That's not what we're going for. There's a certain degree of uncomfortable we want to keep you in. So we want to keep you in this zone between being comfortable but not quite to being insane. Now the thing about uncomfortable zones is after a while they get comfortable. The more that you do it, the more that you practice it, the more able it is, and then you're comfortable. And the attachment to that is then we want to stay there. So you want to get yourself to a place where you're willing to be uncomfortable and aware enough that you see when your uncomfortable zone becomes comfortable and you can keep stretching. Not to the point of insanity, but you stay out of comfort. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I want to tell you two stories that both kind of demonstrate where we're going and where we're coming from. So, my beautiful dog Gallagher, when he was 15, went into surgery for his heart, and it was 7 hours of the most unbelievable surgery. And the nurses would come out of the hospital and they'd say, oh my God, we can't get this done. His heart is open, we can't get it closed up. And then another nurse would come running out and she would go, oh, we got it done, we got it closed up. And then a nurse would come out and say, he's on the ventilator, we can't get him off, he can't breathe without the ventilator. And that was 7 hours of that. And another nurse would come out and say, he's breathing on his own. And at the end of the 7 hours, I think he just got tired. There were 19 vets and surgeons in his room over the 7 hours. And I walked into the hospital after he had passed. And the nurse came up to me and she says, I've never seen a doctor cry before. And I had all of these men in the hallway sobbing. They loved him so much. And it was funny because it was his heart. But that's what they loved about him. They said he had such a strong heart. They did everything they could. I had another dog, Summer, who's also 15, who was 6 months older than Gallagher, and they grew up together and they loved each other. And the doctor told me I have to bring Summer in and show him Gallagher. And I was like, why would I do that? And the doctor said, because if you don't, Summer will look for Gallagher forever. So Summer came in the room and Gallagher's laying on this bench still. And Summer really looked up at me and looked over at Gallagher and walked up to to Gallagher and nuzzled and pushed Gallagher 3 or 4 times with her nose. And kept looking at me and pushing, and then I think she just got it. And she went over in the corner and she lay down and she put her paws over her eyes. And she was so still. And we took Gallagher home. We had him cremated, put him in a beautiful box, and we did the ceremony. And I have also 3 cats at home as well as Summer. So Tyson, my maid at the time, and my niece were there, and we were doing the ceremony. We sat around the coffee table, and we had Gallagher's ashes in the middle of the coffee table. We had pictures, and we had flowers, and we were playing songs, and we had music and candles. I said to Tyson, I said, well, let's start. And the minute I said, let's start, in from the other room, single file, came Summer and the 3 cats behind her. And Summer lays down at my feet, and Nipper, the little white cat, jumps up on my lap and lays down, and the 2 black cats jump up on the table and, like bookends, just lay down right next to the ashes of Gallagher. Totally still, not moving, nothing. They just came in. And I looked at Tyson and we said, whoa, 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 whoa. So we started singing and we did some prayers and we did some hymns and we shared some stories and we went for about, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. We had a ceremony with the candles and blew them out. And we said at the end, maybe we should complete by saying the Lord's Prayer. And so we held hands and we said the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven. And we got to Amen. And I barely got the word out, Amen. 4 animals stood up and walked out of the room. In that moment, I knew in my mind before then, but that moment I knew in my heart that we're all connected. There's something really magical going on. We're going to work with that connection. When I first started my work, it was in transformation. As I told you, my aunt was a healer. I studied with her. I learned how to heal. I used to be the girl in the bathroom at the restaurant, where if you came in and you had too much to drink and you happened to say out loud, oh, I have a headache, I would be the one that says, I'll heal you. It's just ridiculous. I learned all about energy. I learned all about light. I learned all about metaphysics. I learned all about religions. My aunt told me that God was the same and that I should know that. I was 17 at the time when she told me, I think it's the best gift I ever got. She said, God doesn't change, but human beings consider God in different ways. But God's the same, and God doesn't really care. So it would be wise, if you're going to contribute to other human beings, for you to know how they consider God, or what is important to them, or what their language is, so that you can speak to them in their same language when you're talking about heart and soul and light. And so I studied all the world religions so that I could be comfortable whether you were Jewish or whether you were Catholic or whether you were Protestant or whether you were atheist. It was, just a different language. I thought that was a great gift that she gave me. And my whole life has been, from the beginning, about transformation. It's, I've learned so much from so many great people. I sat at the knees of Buckminster Fuller for years. I traveled with him all over the world. I introduced him to groups. I watched him teach the geodesic dome to 3-year-olds and have them be stunningly like this. He was so amazing. I traveled with Swami Muktananda, and I've had some of the greatest masters, even in Hollywood, Jerry Weintraub, who did all of the Ocean's movies and all of the, just amazing, has been a mentor and a coach of mine since I was in my early 20s. So transformation for me and how the mind works and what happens to a human being and who we really are and how we're connected has been my work. 10 years being at EST as the senior vice president, being in a seminar every weekend of my life for 10 years, or in a guest seminar every night, or in a graduate seminar every afternoon, or at a conference or a staff meeting every morning, it's just like you can't even fathom what I'm talking about. I'm so trained, and I came out, and I went around the world for 6 months with my boyfriend. And we came back through Honolulu. And one of my students, Kraft, loved that girl, totally crazy. She had a pet pig. She loved Kahlua. We used to go sailing, not sailing, but out on a rowboat in Hawaii, and we would take our wasabi and our soy sauce and our knife, and we would fish for tuna, and we would just slice it up and eat it. Crazy girl, I just love this girl. So I come down and say, hey, Kraft, I'm in town. And she goes, oh, great, well, why don't you have dinner with me and my husband? And I said, you got married? And she goes, I've been married for 20 years. You didn't think to tell me after all of these years? Nobody even knows you're married? Oh, okay, fine, who's your husband? Oh, he's the general manager of the Hyatt Hotel in Waikiki. He would love to meet you. So, we decided to have a party for dinner, since the general manager is hosting us. And there's 10 friends, and we get around the table, and we start ordering our free dinner, and we ordered everything. And there was this waitress, and she stood there, and she did not have a pencil or a pen or a piece of paper. She looked at us, and she took our order. And we changed our order. And then somebody across the table said, oh, I want some of that too. Oh, I like that. Oh, yeah, can you change this? It was like that around with 12 people. 10 of us, and Kraft, and Wayne. And then she went off, and all of our meals came. And the only mistake she made was she brought me 2 hors d'oeuvres, and I ordered 3. I got some snails, escargot, and I got something else, and she'd forgotten something. And I just decided to be a smart ass, because I'm sitting across the table from Wayne, the general manager, and I flippantly said to him, oh, wow, you really need me to train your staff, because they need some help here. I should come in and do leadership programs. And he said, that would be great. And I started my work in hospitality. Now, because I had experience in hospitality, hotels, training, and communication, when I was working with this company that trained speakers, we got a client, Intercontinental, who had 50 of the number 2s. So there's the GMs and there's the EAMs, the Assistant Executive Managers, or Executive Assistant Managers. And because I'd had experience in hospitality, they decided I should be the one to train those 50 number 2s. And I had them for 5 days. Every single one of those EAMs eventually became a GM. Some of them in Intercontinental, some of them went to other hotel chains, including all sorts. And when they're a GM, they have the capacity to hire me and bring me in to train their people. So suddenly, my niche and expertise was hospitality, restaurants, hotels, and I did that for years. And one of those assistant GMs became a GM 35 years ago and took me every single hotel he went to and trained every single leadership team he had. Now, I want you to get this. Here is this thing happening with hospitality and hotels. Here is this foundation of transformation, communication, leadership. And here is this relationship with Carlton over 30 years of training every single leadership staff that he's ever had. And 10 years ago, he comes to the Hard Rock Orlando. Now, the Hard Rock Orlando is actually owned by Hard Rock Hotels, but it's managed by Lowe's. So I work for Lowe's, essentially, inside of the Hard Rock brand. And I trained that leadership team for 10 years. We won every single award. It was amazing. And then, a couple years ago, as I told you, I'm out on my journey in the car with my 3 cats, deciding where I'm going to go. And I get a phone call from Carlton, and he says, why don't you come and rent my condo till you figure it out? It's available here in Orlando. You're on the East Coast, it's close to Toronto, it's close to London, where you do your other stuff. You know, you can decide what you want to do, get all your stuff out of storage, write your book, whatever you want. And a week later, he invites me to this dinner at the Hard Rock. Wine rips. 6 different kinds of wine, 6 different, pieces of food, all fabulous music. And I'm sitting next to Carlton, and this guy is sitting next to Carlton also. This man is really a fun man. Not somebody sexually that I was attracted to, but somebody just spar with. Just, I didn't even know who he was. And we started laughing. And there's a break. And we get up from the break, and he says, how do you know Carlton? And I'm being a smart ass once again. I said, I've been with Carlton for 35 years. I've trained every leadership team he's ever had. He calls me his secret weapon in leadership for his executive team. And Dale reaches into his pocket, takes out a business card, hands it to me, and he says, call me on Monday. And I look at his business card, and he was the senior vice president of Hard Rock Hotels International. And I called him on Monday, and he said, I want the best. I'm putting together the best team. You're the best. We're going to create a transformational leadership program. And that's what I'm doing right now, consulting the Hard Rock Hotels International, and creating an executive leadership program. And it is going so well, and I'm having so much fun. And I want you to get this. That's flow, and that's connection. If I look backwards, I couldn't have put this story together more perfectly. I wouldn't have thought to even design it this way. Gee, Marcia, you should get real expertise and training in leadership communication. You should be trained in this transformation. You should know how the mind works. You should understand philosophy. You should be speaking. You should be all over the world. You should understand, And we need you to totally understand hospitality, hotels, and restaurants, and the whole hotel business. Because at some point, we're going to need you to do this special leadership program that is going to touch tens of thousands of lives. That's how easy it was. When I called Dale, I said, well, I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to put together my portfolio. He said, Marcia, you don't get it. So I only needed 2 things. I needed to know that Carlton recommended you, and then I needed to meet you. He said, now we just have to decide on the price. That's flow, that's magic, that's being in the flow at the right time, but it only comes when you allow it and when you're willing to flow with it. And that's where we're going this weekend.
Thanks for listening to Talk This Way. If you enjoyed the episode, follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And for access to training, courses, and other ways to learn from Marcia, visit marciamartin.com. That's MARCIA.